We've got some new, good, funky stuff coming from News Nation and Ross Coulthart. Arizona. Apparently some really freaky deaky stuff going down in Arizona. Sorry, I shouldn't say freaky deaky. That's Casper Site's thing. Get over there, do the thing. Apologies. Let's have a look.
Good evening, I'm Ross Coulthart. I've come here to the Arizona desert close to the border with Mexico because this is a restricted airspace where military pilots are testing military aircraft. We're going into the field.
There's enough planes there to start World War III.
To investigate allegations that the US may well have recovered non-human technology.
There's a big drive at the moment, isn't there, to get away from the word alien and get away from the word UFO. So I don't know if this is a disclosure thing where, because UFO always had stigma attached, you know, every time you saw it in the news, oh, there was a UFO report, and they'd sort of be like going, ho, 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 laughing their heads off and making light of it. So now it's UAP, and then they got rid of alien, and now it's NHI.
And to that effect, I'm on my way to meet my very first source on the trail of this mystery.
His name is Bob Thompson, and he's never spoken on camera before. Thompson's an Army veteran who spent 14 years with US Customs and Border Protection.
Why are you talking to us, Bob?
Well, I feel it's an important topic. I think getting this information out is an important step in the whole disclosure process.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things about apparently UFO sightings on the border. I'm always going to call them UFOs, by the way.
Thompson was part of the Tucson sector's Special Operations Detachment Mobile Response Team, focused on counter-terrorism and drug interdiction. Eventually, he became part of the Arizona Air Coordination Center, which monitors the airspace along the US border. It was always a challenging job. And then, he says, it got weird.
There's a lot of stuff that's been cited out here.
I assume those were people trying to cross the border illegally.
Like what?
Well, for one, the rubber duck video. This is ground zero for where the rubber duck was filmed.
This sighting was recorded and tracked by an RC-26B aircraft on an infrared camera on November 23rd, 2019. And like many...
I keep pausing at the wrong time. I couldn't see a rubber duck. I was struggling to see a rubber duck then.
famous UFO videos, it's become known by a nickname.
No, I can kind of see a rubber duck.
Derived from that unusual shape. It's called the rubber duck.
This video is taken down on an air.
Wait, could it not be a balloon?
A giant duck. Let me explain. This is exactly what has happened to one of Hong Kong's most famous visitors right now. Here's a before and after for you.
Area known as the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Area. They were tracked and got called for a group of illegal aliens that had come through and were out
Like aliens.
there looking for them.
Actually use the word aliens.
When this thing popped through the viewfinder.
Were you able to speak to the pilots from the surveillance aircraft that recorded this?
I was, and I actually spoke to the sensor operator. They seemed to think it was searching for something.
The rubber duck immediately struck the pilots as peculiar.
I mean, it would do. If you look at it like that. I mean, it's not dark, which means it's cold. I think. If it's black, then it means it's hot. If it's white, it means it's cold.
Its shape didn't match a plane or a drone, and neither did its cold thermal signature. That's why they decided to track it for a full 40 minutes.
It'd be good if they could tell us what the general speed of the object is. Whether it did any... Is it the 5 observables that they mentioned? You know, for the Academy, to the Stars Academy. Terrible name, by the way. Hypersonic speeds, transmedium. This just looks like a balloon floating through the air.
They definitely thought it was anomalous.
And the rubber duck wasn't the only anomalous video that came across Bob's desk. Higher-ups at Border Patrol showed little interest in the rubber duck video, at which point Bob says he received permission to share it externally.
I mean, they're going to say, right, okay, for all we know, that could be a balloon. That could be a balloon. What do you want us to do about that?
I'm not saying that, you know, it is hostile, but if it is, having that early warning, I think, is probably a good thing.
So Thompson shared his videos with UFO investigator Andy Martial. What was your first impression of those videos? I mean, I'll be honest with you, initially I thought they might be balloons.
Well done, Ross, because that's exactly what I think.
I knew right away what I had in my hands.
Did you? Nobody else did? Well, this is a UFO investigator, so his entire premise, I'm assuming, is that the phenomenon is real. So
Sat through it and watched it, I mean, from beginning to end. And I just couldn't find anything that I can attribute to something earthly or man-made that I knew of.
Except for balloon. Except for a balloon.
In addition to the rubber duck, Andy has now released and nicknamed more videos on Bob's behalf. They include La Bruha, Spanish for the witch, shot in the Tohono O'odham Nation reservation on May 30th, 2021.
So those cows are reflecting back that black hot. The object up at the top is white, which means it's ice cold.
But if it was a drone, you would, number one, see the heat signature, and number two, if they were anywhere close to them, it would have startled them.
Yeah, because drones do make noise. They're not completely silent. However, if it was a balloon and the cows are just chomping away on grass, they're not going to noise there. It's just going to go. That's it.
Roughly 2 years after Bob and Andy leaked the videos online, CBP officially released them, along with hundreds of pages of email correspondence between Bob and his supervisors. So we know the videos are not some kind of CGI hoax, and they
I think if you're going to do a CGI hoax, you'd probably come up with something better than these anyway.
represent a mere fraction of the reported sighting.
So you've spoken to border protection agents, but you've also spoken to Air Force personnel as well.
Air Force personnel as well.
Recent FAA reports confirm that US Air Force pilots have reported numerous encounters with strange flying objects, sometimes in swarms, in their Arizona training ranges. One even struck the canopy of an F-16 Viper jet, damaging the multi-million-dollar craft.
To be fair, if a jet strikes a balloon, the canopy at least, it's not going to do any damage. Because it's a balloon. Unless it was a balloon with, I don't know, maybe a wireframe or something on it.
Famed former Pentagon UAP investigator Lou Elizondo
I love them shots. Lou, we need some shots to sort of introduce you. Can you just sort of walk over and look around and, yeah, make it look as natural as possible?
who testified to Congress on these matters, agrees.
I like how, I mean, they're probably doing it for people who might be new to the subject, but I think everyone, well, they always introduce him and go, oh, he's testified, but everyone knows who he is by now. He's the man with the chandelier photo.
They're seeing something anomalous, aren't they?
Well, what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of activity, a lot of people reporting a lot of things out of Arizona, particularly along the border.
Could all these incidents have prosaic explanations? Well,
Yeah, I'd say so. There's nothing there that sort of, I mean, none of them have done right angle turns, none of them have done hypersonic, none of them have explained any sort of weird behaviour.
sure. So before wasting our time and yours chasing UFOs, we went to chat with an expert on the ground.
Ali, at long last, lovely to meet you.
It's great to meet you,
Your
Rob.
legend.
News Nation's border reporter Ali Bradley has her own intel regarding flying objects on the border. For the past decade,
I should say, if you notice that a lot of like sort of jumps, this segment was about 40 minutes long, something like that. And there was a lot of fluff, and there was a lot of conjecture, and a lot of, this is the backstory of alone things that you're probably not interested or you want to skip through. So I've tried to cut it down as much as
Cartels
possible.
have been using consumer-grade drones like this one, recovered with over 6 pounds of methamphetamine.
So what do you think, Ali? Do you think that what's happening here with the cartels could explain the anomalous activity that they're seeing in the military training ranges?
You know, the cartel wants intel on the United States. That's their MO. That is their number one priority, is to always be one step ahead of us. So what better place to do that than to infiltrate our military installations in some...
I mean, now you think about it, the perfect thing wouldn't be use a drone to carry drugs across the border, because they're metal, they'd probably be tracked on radar, they'd make noise. Use a balloon. You look for when the wind patterns are right, and then you just basically tie them to a balloon, use the balloon, you put a GPS tracker on, and as long as you've got someone else on the other side of the border, they can go and pick it up when it lands.
capacity.
Unless you were in a coma in late 2024, you know that the mystery drone threat is more than mere speculation. For weeks, New Jersey residents were reporting strange aircraft in the area.
Yeah, then some Burke with a rifle started shooting at them. I mean, come on.
When officials began to investigate, things only got more concerning.
They don't know where the drones are coming from, they don't know who's doing it, they don't know why they're doing it, but they say there's no credible threat.
My theory at the time, and I'm not sure it lends any credence, but when they were being very nonchalant around, we kept calling them drones, so the US government kept saying they were drones, but they didn't know where they were coming from, they didn't know what the purpose was, who sent them, etc. So my thought was, well, if you're not going to own up and say these are ours in terms of the US military drones, and you're basically nonchalant saying we don't know if they're foreign technology drones, and still being really nonchalant about it, like not bringing them down, then my theory at the time was, are these drones looking for something specific that the US military is not going to tell you it's looking for, to not cause mass panic? And my thought at the time was a nuclear dirty bomb, basically. Are they looking for radiological signatures from a dirty bomb that was smuggled into the New Jersey port or something? Who knows?
The mystery behind these purported drones remains. The military admits it often cannot detect, track, or down these objects. Defence also recently admitted to one senator it's mystified as to their origin. News Nation's Rich McHugh has his own memorable experience while out reporting the story.
I think we've seen about 40 or 50 of these drones. In fact, there's one over my shoulder right there. One after another, these drones appeared in the night sky. If you look real close, they look like fixed wing.
That does look like fixed-wing aircraft with an engine on it.
Aircraft, about 8 to 10 feet wide, colorful, white blinking lights.
That is not a plane.
Definitely not an airplane, but what was it?
Are the Arizona...
That does look like a drone, to be honest.
Similar sophisticated drones. That's what the Defence Department's ARROW, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, claims.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see.
But is that explanation plausible?
It is fact that UAP often, but not always, resolve into readily explainable sources.
But are the...
He just looked absolutely devoid of any energy in that job. I don't think he wanted that job. I think he was pushed into it and gone, just do this job for a couple of years and then we'll let you leave and give you a cushy private number. And I think he's working for one of the big contractors now, like Raytheon or Lockheed or something like that. Probably on NHI Tech.
These Arizona videos and all those reports to the FAA so easily explainable.
There's obviously something going on in Arizona along the border areas, more than just illegal immigration.
In fact, Bob and Andy are so certain they've submitted the videos to one of the country's top scientific groups for analysis.
We've analyzed those cases using physics and all the tools of science.
So
And we've come up with nothing. I'm willing to bet.
We've seen the videos, and we've heard from Bob Thompson, the former Border Protection officer, and he clearly thinks those objects are something anomalous. How to resolve this? Well, Rocket City, Huntsville, Alabama, where it just so happens there's a conference of the Scientific Coalition for the Study of UAPs. There are a bunch of scientists who think, despite the stigma, despite the ridicule, it is possible.
Ross, I think you could do this when you're not driving down the motorway, constantly looking at the camera to your right hand side as you're driving. You've got to be safe in these situations. All it takes is a second, take your eye off the road. I'd never advocate for anyone doing that.
To still investigate the phenomenon. So let's see what they say.
Rich Hoffman, head of the SCU, is familiar with Bob's leaked videos.
Welcome, Rich.
With that, we take a closer look at our data. Bob's videos.
Okay, so La Bruja, the witch, it was captured in, I think, February.
I don't know where they're getting the witch from. If they're saying that it looks like some sort of witch on a broom, I'm not seeing it.
February 2020,
Not yet, at least.
using a mobile scope truck. What can you say about that? It doesn't appear to be moving under any kind of propulsion system. Couldn't it just be a balloon?
Well, let's take a look at the wind speed on that day and at that time. And I say, well, wait a minute, there's no wind on that. So what?
Right, even though there's no wind at the surface level, surely a bit further up, if you've got a balloon that's got, I don't know, filled with nitrogen, helium, helium, it's going to float further up and it's still going to move. You release a balloon out where there's no wind, it will still move around. It would really still move around.
It's moving that. It's not going to be a balloon.
Do you think it's under apparent control?
Yes, I do. I think that in this case, this one is an unknown. And it tends to fall into the more validated UAP.
I don't know, you can make that leap. And it's an unknown, so it could be a balloon.
That we can't.
I think anything that gets classified as unknown, but then you turn around and say, could this be a balloon? You go, yeah, we're not seeing any evidence to the contrary. I would just chalk it up to being a balloon.
Understand.
Well, we have an object here moving along at a steady clip in the desert, and it doesn't seem to conform to the shape of a drone or a plane. The camera is in a mode where black is hot, which means that the potentially anomalous object here.
I mean, to be fair, when you look at it going from right to left there, it's moving at a decent speed. It's also consistent in terms of height and elevation. Could it be something other than a balloon? Absolutely. But I think extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That quote will always show up in a UAP video. UFO.
Is very cold, and that's strange because if it's an animal, it should be warm.
And if it was a machine, you'd expect it to be hot as well.
Yes, because you'd expect some kind of exhaust or propellant, and so the temperature of this object as well as its shape suggests that this is something worth studying and trying to explain. The thing is, videos don't just stand on their own. We also have the corroborating story of not just regular witnesses, but military people who are trained to identify foreign aircraft. And yet
yeah, I mean, to be fair though, when you're looking through thermal imagery, it blurs, because if you look at stuff like a jet through a thermal imaging camera, the back end or the actual where the exhausts are and where the engines are going to be blurring the rest of the image a little bit because they're sort of red hot. So it might not even show up on a thermal camera what the actual shape really is.
They're not able to identify some of these objects that are violating military airspace on a regular basis.
So perhaps there are sightings that defy explanation. But what will the scientists make of the most compelling video of them all? Evidence kept pouring in of strange encounters in the Arizona skies. like this cockpit voice recording of a 2018 incident between a commercial airline pilot and yet another UAP over Phoenix.
Was there anybody above us that passed us like 30 seconds ago?
Number 71 Papa Golf negative.
I don't know what it was. It wasn't an airplane.
That's what
I think, is it the Black Vault did, I don't think he did a segment on it, but I think he released the full audio of the pilot and the tower basically discussing UAP right about the time of the Jersey sightings, saying that they were coming out of the water. It was really interesting. I'll see if I can actually include a link to that in the top corner. Can I add a link? I don't think I can. I'll add it in the description.
why they pressed on, submitting their videos to the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. And rather than dismissing those sightings, the group took one of them, the so-called rubber duck video, seriously enough to commission a 47-page report. It was authored by this man.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Peter Reali, SCU member and retired electrical engineer. What are we seeing here?
Well, first thing is, you see all the green writing is called metadata. And with that data, you can actually analyze a lot about the actual video.
What are the three issues that you think makes it an...
I'm hoping now he's going to say, right, okay, well, we're analysing the speed of the aircraft. The speed is actually a lot faster than what we'd expect from a balloon travelling just on wind. It's actually travelling against the wind. We'd also like to see the fact that it's moving elevation at, significant speed, like it's dropped 1,000 feet in a minute or something. Let's see what he says.
Anomalous object.
The shape, it's certainly not a bird. The settings in the metadata, that white is cold compared to black that's hot.
That means, like
not a bird and it's cold.
La Bruha, it can't be a drone, since the engine would read as hot.
The third one is, you can't tell from this video which way the wind is blowing, but the pilots said it was going against the wind.
And that means it can't be a balloon, since...
Well, pilots might be wrong, unfortunately, because don't forget, the elevation where they are, maybe the wind was blowing, but then for a bit lower altitude, because that looks like it's looking down sort of an angle at it. So maybe the wind further down is actually blowing a little bit harder.
Balloons drift.
And maybe it's a lot slower, but it's looking like it's travelling faster because it's in retrospect of the speed of the aircraft. So, like you've seen it where there's something there, an aircraft's moving, and you can see where a plane looks like it's stuck in midair, and it's because of the effects. I can't remember what it's called, but the scientific effect for it.
With the wind, not against it. But it gets stranger. What were you able to figure out by looking at the GPS coordinates?
The green is, you see the actual GPS coordinates on there, is the path, and see it circling.
Circling? For 40 minutes? But how and why?
I mean, it could be wind patterns, right? It's just following around wind, and wind does circle sometimes. Like you get to certain areas. I mean, there's a lot of geographical topology there. Is basically hills, mountainous. So you'd have different winds. You'd have stuff carrying things up a bit further down. And I'm pretty sure the simulations being done where they actually do like a balloon launch and then the track how it moves. And I think you've seen where it moves in a very strange way. And I'll see if I can overlay that now.
The scientists of the SCU are as perplexed as we are. Is there any natural, prosaic explanation that you were able to come up with that can explain how an object with no visible means of propulsion could circle?
No, not that I can think of.
So a genuine anomaly.
A genuine anomaly.
We have no rational...
It might be.
...explanation that we can...
It might also be a balloon.
...come up with to explain how you can get this effect, what it would be doing, moving for this length of time.
Curiously, some of the objects spotted on the east coast last year also seemed to defy explanation. I spoke to John and Jerry Tedesco, two citizen UAP researchers who recorded these strange objects on their hyperspectral camera.
They seem like a couple of good eggs, the Tedesco brothers, who do a lot of scientific research into the phenomena. I need to check out their stuff a little bit more, I think.
Hard to make out. And the Tedesco brothers say that's no accident.
They seem to be, lack of a better term, almost like they seem to be absorbing light. They're not reflecting light at all. There's some cases where they come up, they're darker than the rest of the environment.
Almost like a black body source.
Like a black body source.
Do you believe that what you are seeing?
I mean, I suppose one of the things about stealth technology as well is it doesn't reflect radar, but it's very visible. But then you've got the metamaterials now where you can sort of bend light and it bends light around it. Can you imagine having an aircraft where you could use that sort of material? It'd be brilliant, because not only is it stealth, not only would it be stealth to radar potentially, or maybe you would, but it'd be less visible to the human eye maybe.
Is potentially evidence of a non-human intelligence.
Yeah, I think we have to consider that. It's something that needs to be considered. I mean, we have to collect more data, but I mean, there's some bizarre features of these objects. So at least the technology is quite different from what we've seen previously.
And it certainly doesn't align with current day technology.
The changes in spectral signatures and the sudden appearances and disappearances, and some of the flight behaviors are very strange.
So if the UAP hypothesis is worth pursuing, we wanted to know, could those Arizona sightings have anything to do with the most famous Arizona sighting of all?
They're always going to come back here. The Phoenix lights. And yeah, it was completely bizarre, and probably we might never ever know what it was. Truly, but they always roll out the Phoenix lights. If you're ever anywhere near Arizona, you're talking about UFOs. Yep, it's the Phoenix lights.
We've come here to Phoenix to investigate what is probably the biggest mass sighting in US history.
This series of sightings took the state by storm on March 13th, 1997, when thousands of witnesses across hundreds of miles reported anomalous objects in the sky.
You know what really annoys me is that something this big was done back in the day before everyone had 4K cameras in the pockets.
Some people saw a structured craft, not just lights.
Oh yes, either V-shaped or boomerang shaped or triangle shaped.
Take me to the 13th of March, 1997.
About 8:30 that evening, I saw lights pop up, 3 lights, far north, and about 20 to 10, suddenly I see 6 lights pop on at a distance. I run out there with my video camera, and as I'm fumbling to get it focused, these 6 lights had turned to 3, massive 3 endpoints of a V or triangle.
How many?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could make out a triangle from that point, but if you've got any object, even if it's a circle, but you put 3 lights on it, then it's going to look like a triangle, unless you can see the outline of the object.
How many witnesses are you aware of that witnessed that event?
There are at least 10 to 20,000 witnesses. So
what were they saying they saw?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the city saw it.
It was very silent. We have pilots and professionals that were right underneath these, what they called canisters of spinning energy, that they would look up and think that it was going to drop down on them.
However, not everyone took the sighting seriously, including then Governor Fife Symington.
Remember this? Yeah, I mean, but this is mainstream media back in the day. They did this all the time when talking about UFOs.
Let me just say that I believe it a serious offense for anyone, human, space alien, or otherwise, to engage in mysterious activity in our nighttime skies.
A decade later, Symington would not only admit to having witnessed the Phoenix lights himself.
You can laugh about it now, but I can imagine if you were in the city at the time that you would have been livid with the officials sort of taking the piss out of everybody who saw this. and knew that there was something strange about it.
He'd also admit to believing it was an alien craft. At the time, though, he was successful in downplaying what he and everyone else had seen.
He came out and did an interview. I'll see if I can add the segment, actually, visibility. But he basically came out and said he was almost asked to downplay it, but now he come out and said, yeah, I did see it. I wonder, though, if I'm honest, how much of that is just to basically stop being the villain.
To date, the Phoenix lights have never been reenacted or explained.
Do you buy the line that the Phoenix lights were flares?
Well, they weren't flares, we know that. So what you're referring to is something we call white phosphorus flares, usually dropped out of the end of an aircraft. They're very luminous, and they're used for nighttime illumination or for targeting. Sure. What happens is that they flare up, they come down on a parachute, and then they dissipate. They burn out, right?
That didn't happen.
That did not happen.
A retired paranormal investigator with the Navajo Rangers.
Have you heard of the portals?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I should explain here. Sorry, I cut out a segment. They started to go on a real tangent about portals in Arizona. About people seeing portals opening and closing. Again, no footage whatsoever, just people saying, yeah, we've seen strange portals opening and closing. And then it got to this segment.
We've got areas on our reservation. You could actually walk into one of these things, not even see it.
Is it?
Has anyone ever done that, though? I don't believe any of that, if I'm honest. Who's walked into a portal? Have we got any evidence? What happened to them? Did they say, oh, we're transported to another place in time, another universe, another dimension, another planet? Did they come back? Have they got any evidence?
Part of Native American culture and mythology that they have.
Obviously saying that you walk into a portal and you'd never know it were there. In that case, anyone could walk into a portal. When
been visitations from other people?
The verbal history is passed down generation to generation exactly as it was told.
What's with the music? I know they're trying to have an authentic vibe and respectful for the culture, but they didn't do that when they were in the middle of Arizona or anywhere else, to be honest. They started playing the local music. It seems to be when they start talking about the Navajo or, you know, like the Indians and things like that. It's just, yeah, they always play the authentic sort of music.
So,
let's see what's on these glyphs. That looks like a praying mantis. Not sure what that is. Looks like a crocodile with horns on its head. Someone tell me. Someone tell me what those are. But the swirly things, they always do show up. I'm not sure what that means though.
They talk about it. They talk about what they call holy people or gods coming to them and imparting knowledge. What we're starting to see, what the evidence leads to, is the idea that these things all involve dimensional travel.
Really?
And
that seems to be the big thing at the moment. Non-human intelligence has replaced alien. What else? UAP has replaced UFO. And now interdimensional beings seems to be the sort of the drive.
Believe it or not, Bob Thompson says some of his colleagues in Border Patrol have also reported encounters with interdimensional portals.
I've gotten, eyewitness reports, statements from agents that have told me that they've seen other things, including, openings of portals even on some of these cameras.
Openings of portals. So I'd love him to read out a witness statement now saying this is exactly what it looked like.
So agents have told you they've seen portals?
Portals opening in the sky.
Our investigation now takes us to Sedona, Arizona, long considered the capital of American New Age spirituality. It's also a UFO hotspot. And if you believe the locals, they think they've got the answer to crack our mystery.
and it all started with a big bang.
Jeremiah.
Ross, how are you?
Good to see you at long last.
Jeremiah Horstman and Alexandra Caldwell have been exploring the Sedona area for more than a decade. They're among the many people who believe there's an interdimensional portal here, which is the original source of the UAP visitations and is now part of a secret government base dedicated to UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering.
Do they sell tours? Have they got a website where you can sell tours and they'll take you out and go for a walk with the hope that you might see something strange, but unfortunately never do?
I think there's a portal site in there, and that portal site has been contained by the federal government.
The rumours we keep on hearing are that perhaps it's underground.
Yes, and you're more or less walking distance from what we believe is one of those underground facilities.
You actually think there's one here somewhere?
Right here.
Alex, as you've described...
Is he ex-military? He smacks of ex-military. I mean, looks like he's in decent shape, but the sort of the way he's dressed, if he's not ex-military, then why is he dressed like that, I suppose?
An incident where you saw a disc being accompanied by or pursued by helicopters. Tell me what you saw.
So we were in our backyard. It was approximately 10, just after 10 a.m. in the morning.
So it's the morning, clear day?
In the morning, clear day.
What do you see?
So we see 7 Apache helicopters fly overhead, and we took a picture with what we had with us, which was just an iPad. But you can see in the photograph a silver UAP of some sort.
They were...
Does it look like a UAP?
Following it or...
UFO.
Looked like the helicopters were escorting it.
Additionally, Jeremiah and Alexandra have taken photos of what they call a square-shaped hillside entrance with an intense light emanating from inside. Anyone would be sceptical about such claims in the absence of hard evidence. Author and long-time Sedona resident Tom Dongo has been a proponent of this theory for years.
Do you think there's some kind of secret, perhaps underground base?
Yes.
Ben, yes. Show us the evidence.
Yes, absolutely.
Like many locals, Tom believes much of this activity centres on and around a property known as the Bradshaw Ranch, and he says he has evidence to prove it.
So on the Bradshaw Ranch, the owner, Linda Bradshaw, asked me to come out because I was known as a researcher and look at some of this stuff. And we saw strange things flying around.
Like what?
Well, this, for example.
What is that?
Strange lights. Well,
it's like looking at it going, what is it? I'm not seeing anything here.
I took this photograph.
I mean, that could be, is it long or short? Is it long exposure? Long exposure on your camera settings?
Myself. And this is just off the Bradshaw Ranch, but these things, these orbs of light would come out of the ground and fly off.
What's your theory?
Well, it's interdimensional. I think it's coming from other dimensions. Well,
again, it's a dimensional.
Most of it. And on the Bradshaw Ranch, there was a portal. So is this?
How do you know that? They always make these claims without the evidence.
It's just the U.S. military, or is it just alien, or are they together?
Hypothetically, if they have recovered craft, someone's hiding it somewhere, aren't they?
Well, that we know.
Do you know? Do you know, Lou? Because you're going to get asked a question, no doubt, about where are they, and you'll go, can't tell you, Ross, can't tell you that, can't tell you.
Can I ask you, do you know those locations?
I cannot elaborate on what the government might or might not have in its possession and where it might be located.
The Pentagon won't allow
because you don't know, Lou.
To elaborate.
And until I find otherwise, I'm just going to believe he doesn't know, or he's spinning a yarn. I can't stand these people who come out and the whistleblowers and they're going to testify. At the end of the day, Congress have already said like these programs apparently have not got congressional oversight, which means these special access programs are off the books, therefore illegal. So if he's got knowledge of them, how can you get basically? How can you? What's the word? How can you get convicted or arrested or jailed for basically saying what you know about special access programs that are illegal. I just can't stand the spin. It's same with Ross Coulthart. I love the guy, but when he says he knows that there's a massive giant UFO somewhere that's had a building built over it because it was too big to move, and he knows the location, but he'll never tell us. Just keep quiet about it then.
Publicly on the matter. So we made our own visit to the Bradshaw Ranch with Jeremiah and Alexandra to see what's going on there for ourselves. The property now lies abandoned, except for this interesting fenced-off area being used for scientific research.
Let me ask you this. The sign here says that this is the Southwest Experimental Garden Array, or Cigar. So it's not a military facility at all. It's a scientific project. Have we got it wrong?
Well, that's what they're saying.
It's not a military project, but I did look at Cigar, and for anybody's benefit, it is basically funded by the federal government.
But the locals know that something else is going on, so that's more of a cover story.
The 10 sites that Cigar operate are all in Arizona. And the reason for that apparently is because the climate is perfect for their research. Just saying.
Saying not only is this a secret military base, it's also the site of a paranormal.
And let's face it, I mean, there's no barbed wires, there's no cameras. Apparently, it's to stop animals getting into the sort of where they're doing testing, wild animals getting in, which I think is a plausible explanation. It looks to me like it's not really been well maintained. Those gates look a little bit skew with. Looks like you could climb over that no problem whatsoever. I don't think there's cameras on the corners. If the cameras are hidden, fair enough. And there might not even be sort of an operational presence there all the time. So if you're really that interested, just jump over the fence and go and have a look.
Location.
I'll send a drone over.
Very much so.
The theory, as wacky as it may sound, is that UAPs spotted all around Arizona are travelling through an interdimensional portal that is now part of a deep underground military base. But before we buy into that, we wanted to see if we can observe any of these UAPs for ourselves.
So this is your secret spot, Melinda?
Yes, yes.
UFO tour guide Melinda Leslie has spent 13 years spotting anomalies in the desert skies just outside Sedona.
Oh, God. Not bad money if you can make it.
Everybody come, go.
I suppose if you're a tour guide, though, you've got to be able to show results.
So it's coming up to midnight, and Melinda's been seeing increased activity, anomalous objects doing extraordinary things, and often escorted.
Assuming that was a bug that just flew across the camera there.
By dozens of military helicopters. So we're hoping we might see some tonight.
So we're looking for anything moving. Now, I kind of think...
There's an orb straight ahead of me.
There's two together right there.
Have they got laser pens? Is that what that line is?
Oh, look,
Military coming up.
Yeah, there's a military chopper coming up. Oh, wow. So this is what you're
How do they know it's a military chopper, though?
talking about. There's a military chopper in proximity to those objects.
Yeah, so there's these two here, and there's these two right here. And he came up right behind them.
So, if nothing else, Melinda, I'm satisfied that I'm seeing a lot of choppers hovering and moving with purpose around other objects which are demonstrably anomalous.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. There was quite a lot of activity there, to be honest.
Yes.
Has whistleblower...
I'd be interested to know if there's a base or if there's an airport or anything like that over that way. They didn't really go into a lot of detail, do they?
taken a toll on you?
It has. It has.
Sir, I hope one day there comes a time in America where people like you, who've had the courage to come forward, are properly recognised and honoured.
I agree. I mean, I think if there is anything to the phenomena where they come out and say, look, we've known about this for a while, it is real. And I'm on the fence, to be honest. I mean, I've always been a believer. The X-Files sort of, as a kid, watching the X-Files in the 90s really, really got me into the paranormal, aliens, UFOs, all that stuff. I've always been somebody who, a clear day, a clear night, when the stars were out, would always look up at the stars and wonder what's up there. But for the last 20 years, it's just been talking head after talking head, claim after claim, with no real evidence or proof. Even the whistleblowers who are coming out now, you go, oh wow, whistleblowers. But it's still just people talking with no evidence. I'm a nuts and bolts guy. I would love the government to come out saying, we've got it, we've got the material, we've got the biologics, as they're calling it now, to the bodies. I'm not seeing any of that.
Applaud Bob for what he did. I'm glad it came out.
Until that day comes, Bob will keep doing what he's doing. And now he has one more piece of video evidence to share with the world.
What do you call that one?
I left this to the end. Let's hope it's good video.
That one I think is known as the Cigar video.
Bob says not much is known about this sighting other than that it was
Looks like a plane to me. I'm only joking. I know it's not the video.
shot by a CBP reconnaissance plane, probably an RC-26, which usually flies at about 25,000 feet. The plane was in the same vicinity as the rubber duck when it captured this object moving quickly in a straight line without discernible wings or propellers.
So that's the object you're talking about. It's like a...
It's hot.
Stubby little cylinder.
That's correct.
The thing I find fascinating is that in the FOI'd US Air Force report,
and there seems to have been like a trail behind it, almost like air disturbance. And the fact that it's hot, could it not be a missile?
pilots that report coming across cylindrical objects at hugely high altitudes.
Well, that might fit the bill.
To be certain, we return to the scientists at the SCU for analysis. It's nicknamed the Cigar, and we'd like you to have a look at it.
There seems to be an effect following it, like a trail. And that could be the fact that it's got propulsion. So then the after question is, could this be a missile?
A missile? Maybe. But Peter Reale has a different take.
The intriguing part is it doesn't seem to have any lift capability of any lift mechanism. It doesn't appear to have an engine. It's one solid color. So usually it would have a hot engine and perhaps a cold surface. It maintains its shape and moves along. So
it's a genuine mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a mystery. And if it's a missile, why would a missile be fired there? Unless there's a test range nearby.
Just don't know what to make out of it.
One thing we know for sure, that this investigation can and must continue.
Interesting stuff there, Ross. Yeah. It was like there's some strange stuff going on in Arizona. Whether the portals that are opening up that you can walk through, I don't know. You might never know they're there. But that could be the same. Me going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock, with a full bladder. I could walk through a portal if you don't know it's there. Could be anywhere. So, big claims, good segment. Hope you enjoyed it. Do the usual. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. Let me know what you think, more importantly. I'm on the fence about the whole sort of topic at the minute. I'm getting really got wound up with just seeing talking head after talking head coming out. So hopefully we see something more tangible in the future. Or maybe there's nothing to it and it's just all smoke and mirrors. See you on the next one.